Welcome to West Country Wanderings and a big welcome to Chastleton House. I'm here in Oxfordshire, in the northern part of the Cotswolds. It's a National Trust property. I've got my time ticket for 2:10. Now if you're planning to come here, check the website carefully because it has very restricted opening times. It's only open from I think the end of March to October. I think it's the end of October, and it's only open Wednesdays to Sundays, and then only open between 2 and 5, a bit like that restricted miniature railway we saw the other day. But yeah, the house is down there. I'm going to have a look around the grounds here first, do some shots of that. I don't know much about the history of this house today, so it's a bit of an impromptu visit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the details about the house, who built it and when I do the tour around. I'll probably do that just using photographs today, like I've done with nearby places like Charlecote as well, National Trust. Hope you enjoyed the tour here today, and I'll see you all in a bit. So Chastleton lies close to the Oxfordshire town of Chipping Norton. We're also quite close to the Gloucestershire Cotswold towns of Moreton-in-Marsh, which I did my last Cotswold walk on Cotswold Walk number 8. And I'm throwing off, I'll mention about that in a bit. And also Stow-on-the-Wold, which is obviously that high wold town, famous market Cotswold town in Gloucestershire. We're also close to the border stone, the Four Counties border stone, and when I drove past it to come here today, I noticed that it was being renovated. Now originally that was to mark where four counties, and they were Worcestershire, Warwickshire, Gloucestershire and Oxfordshire all met, and we're just inside Oxfordshire here. And now of course it only as the boundary of just three counties. Worcestershire changed its borders in 1934. I think I'll drop that in below. So it's now just three counties. But I've just noticed that that boundary stone is currently being completely renovated, which is fantastic to see. So we have the stunning house behind me. There are the toilet facilities there, and if you have backpacks like I have with the camera equipment, you do need to take them off and put them in the lockers before you're allowed into the house. So I'll do that shortly, but just walking around this beautiful courtyard here and garden as well. Other thing to note, the church is right next door, and today they're also serving teas, coffees and cake in the church, well the foyer, but the bar by the porch there, as just onto the entrance of the church. Perhaps we'll have a look at that before we go here today. Now, Chastleton House was built between 1607 and 1612, and it's been attributed, although it's not actually certain, the architect was Robert Smithson. It's a Grade 1 listed property given taken over by the National Trust in 1991, but I think they had accreditation to it from 1954, and it's also built of local Cotswold stone. There have been some film dramas that have been done here over the years. Most recent one was a BBC production called Wolf Hall, which was back in 2050. So how did this magnificent property come to be built? Well, one Walter Jones bought the estate and the former manor house that was here off one Robert Catesby. The manor house was later demolished and this magnificent structure was then built behind me. So we're going to go inside this magnificent property now. I'm going to do it in terms of music with my photographs that I've taken. I'm also going to add some subtitles, giving you some more history about the family that once lived in this house. Now, just to let you know, it hasn't been completely restored. It was, as it was found, it was handed down. It was bought by another trust in 1991. It was restored to some extent, but though not fully, particularly the gardens have been restored. And it was opened to the public in 1997. But I'll give you some more information about the family as we have a tour of this fantastic house here in Oxfordshire. Now, one of the more interesting things, with lots of interesting things about this fabulous house here, Chastleton, was that in 1874 a lady called Mary Whitmore Jones, who was an inventor as well as being an author, she inherited, because both the brothers died childless, they didn't have any heirs, so she inherited, which was quite an unusual thing in those days. And 20 years, or just shortly after 20 years that she inherited, she let the property out to tenants, the Richardson family, and they lived here for a further 30 years. Now, the gardens here appear to be a lot bigger than they do when you first arrive. You come into a courtyard, I think it's called Dairy Court, where they show a 5-minute film. You find the toilets there and also the lockers to put, as I say, backpacks if you've got those like I did. Took that off and put that in there. And then you go into the main garden. I think it was called the Best Garden, and that was in a ruin. In fact, it was just turfed over when the National Trust originally received it in 1991 as a gift from a charity, a heritage charity. But there's also these like fabulous rooms, different sections where you've got the hedges, and you can just wander around and get a different flavour from each one. And this just down here, we have this tremendous orchard as well, which is at the bottom of the garden, just below the house here at Chastleton. And in front of the house here, we also have this fantastic croquet lawn as well. I'm not going to walk across that. There is a footpath that just goes around the edge of it. Nobody playing croquet on it today, but yeah, it's delightful to see that here. Now, the rules of croquet were actually formulated and written down here from croquet being played here, which went obviously international across the colonies, by one Walter Jones Whitmore in the 1860s, he being one of the brothers of the novelist who inherited this, the Mary, because he died childless later on in the 1870s. But yeah, the rules of croquet were formulated here in the 1860s, and there's a magnificent 2-level croquet lawn in front of the house. While I'm here with this magnificent property, Chastleton House in Oxfordshire behind me, just a quick mention about my Facebook group, West Country Wanderings. If you go into Facebook and type in West Country Wanderings, you'll find my group there, and you can request to join it, and then you can then post any of the National Trust's properties that you've been to, or gardens or places that you've been to in the West Country Wanderings region that I cover here on the YouTube. Love to hear from you. Share your photographs and videos of the places that you visited. I'd love to know what your most favourite National Trust place is in the West Country Wanderings region. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this tour of Chastleton House here in Oxfordshire, now in the care of the National Trust here today, and its fascinating history and its unique style, the way it's presented in the not touched category in terms of preserved as it was once, or how it was found. Love to know what you think. As usual, please drop a comment below, and if you liked it, then well, click like it, and also if this sort of thing interests you, then you can click subscribe, or why not join my Facebook group, as I mentioned earlier in the video. I'd love to hear from you on there. Until next time on West Country Wanderings, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers, goodbye.